Hi,
I
Claudia.
asked Mike to talk about that video I sent you with the woman dancing in Parliament,
What country was that?
New Zealand.
Okay. Rebecca's not coming.
Who?
Rebecca Judah. Dr. Judah.
Ooh, that's too bad.
Sent you a text last night about
I missed that.
that. Maybe did so. Okay, this morning, but it's Monday. That's better. We're picking Eileen too. Okay, music.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Dawn Patrol. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. I'm joined by Mike Smith, zooming in from Florida. How are you, Mike? And maybe not. Eileen.
Yep, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, good. How are things down in Florida?
Thanks so much for waiting. I can hear.
Okay. So Eileen is zooming in. I got a text from
Hold on, you're going out a little bit.
What?
Eileen is what?
I said Eileen is here.
Oh, maybe
You're doing fine, Eileen.
I may call your phone, Cliff, because you're going out a little bit.
Okay. So I got a text from Fru. He was stuck at Dallas Airport last evening, so he may not make it this morning. I thought today's weather was good, sunny. Well, I mean, not cloudy. There is no sun yet. So we're going to get a high of 58. Hello, Eileen. So, morning. How are things over on Christian Hill?
Very good. Apparently it's going to be 60 degrees today.
There we go. Now I got you on speaker. It's going to be 60 on Christian Hill?
Yep, and the rest of the Merrimack Valley.
Oh. And it's going to be above freezing all week, so that's good.
At least it sounds like we're finally going to get some rain midweek.
That'll be good. Rain is good. And we're wishing a happy birthday to Mike Sawyer. Happy birthday, Mike. And yesterday was Take a Hike Day in the U.S.
Take a hike day.
Yeah. Did anybody tell you to take a hike?
Many times.
Yeah. So on this day in history, in 1493, Christopher Columbus first sights the island now known as Puerto Rico. And in 1625, the new St. Peter's Basilica in Rome is consecrated. Have you ever been to Rome and to St. Peter's Basilica? Eileen?
I don't even have a passport. No.
Oh.
Every time we do this show and you guys start talking about international stuff, I think I need to get a passport. And then it leaves my mind.
Okay, let's see if I've merged. Mike, are you there?
Oh, are you there, Cliff?
Yeah? And Eileen, are you there?
I'm here on your phone, though, not on the Zoom. I was having trouble, so maybe my cut is having some difficulty. You kept, coming in and out.
Oh. So, Mike, have you ever been to Rome? Mike? This high technology is getting me. Mike?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Now, Eileen, are you on? Oh, I see what I'm doing. I thought I was merging. I was swapping.
Cliff, and then just after he picks up, you hit the merge button on your phone, and then we can both be on your phone.
Right. Except I thought I was hitting merge and I hit swap.
Oh, well, just be more careful this time.
Yeah, I will. So, Mike, have you ever been to Rome?
To Rome, no, I have not. That's on our list, and hopefully in 2026 to get to Europe.
Yeah. Europe is an interesting place. Anyway, St. Peter's Basilica, it's huge. And you can go up into the dome and walk around. I don't like those high places. When the producers for you will ask him if he's been there. In 1803, in Haiti, the Battle of Vercheres, the last major battle of the Haitian Revolution, leading to the establishment of the Republic of Haiti, the first black republic in the Western Hemisphere. In 1872, Susan B. Anthony and 14 other women were arrested for voting illegally in the United States presidential election of 1872. What makes that interesting is in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, just north of Philadelphia, one of the members of the election commission said, "I don't care what the law is. If you didn't fill out the mail-in voting, we'll let you vote anyway." Did you see that, Mike?
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh, okay. All right. In 1883, American and Canadian railroads institute 5 standard continental time zones, ending the confusion of thousands of local times. I think that was a step forward. In 1928, release of the animated short Steamboat Willie, the first fully synchronized sound cartoon. Anybody remember Steamboat Willie?
Yes, I know who that is. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the forerunner of Mickey Mouse.
That is exactly right. 1961, President John F. Kennedy sends 18,000 military advisors to South Vietnam. That didn't end well. 1963, the first push-button telephone went into service. I can remember phones without even having rotaries. You just picked it up and talked to the operator. 1970, President Nixon asked Congress for $155 million in supplemental aid for the Cambodian government. Today, $155 million is no big deal, but then it was. In 1978, in Jamestown, Guyana, Jim Jones leads his People's Temple to a mass murder-suicide that claimed 918 lives, 109 of them in Jonestown, including 270 children. 1993, in South Africa, 21 political parties approved a new constitution ending apartheid. And in 2003, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruled 4-3 in Godwin versus Department of Public Health that the state's ban on same-sex marriage was unconstitutional, and they gave the general court 180 days to fix the law. I had this one especially for John. 1901, George Gallup, American pollster, was born. 1923, Alan Shepard was born. 1929, Ted Stevens, American politician, was born. He got screwed over by the judicial system. He was later exonerated, but he lost his race for a senator from Alaska.
Can we back the bus up a little bit?
Yeah.
When I was in the other room fixing up Facebook, you were talking about Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
More importantly, today is Mickey and Minnie Mouse's birthday.
Yeah.
You didn't mention that.
But we mentioned Mickey Mouse because it's...
But you didn't mention it was his birthday.
No.
It was his birthday. So was Minnie Mouse. It's their birthday today, along with Mike Sawyer.
1970, Megan Kelly was born.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also Take a Hike Day. Did you hear that, John?
That was yesterday, was Take a Hike Day.
Oh, sorry. I like Megan Kelly. I like listening to her.
So do I. You got a view, Mike?
What, a view on Megyn Kelly?
Yeah.
I haven't really listened to her that much. I'll have to go and listen more often just to get a little more better background on her.
She comes up a lot now on YouTube because they think she's doing her own independent thing.
Oh, okay.
That's where I've seen her because I like scrolling through the YouTube shorts, and she's on a lot of those.
Yeah, wasn't she with Fox and left them?
Yeah. And her and Tucker Carlson actually do some shows together now.
That's good. John,
Hi, Cliff.
you've been to Rome, right?
Oh, yeah, twice.
Have you been to St. Peter's Basilica, the
Yep.
big church?
Actually, I saw the Pope's kitchen.
Holy smoke.
Yep, got lucky.
Yeah, today is the anniversary of the founding of dedication of St. Peter's Basilica.
Cool.
Huge, magnificent building. So
Saw the Pope speak out his window.
Ah,
That was cool. But the audience that's in the big square there, it's amazing. Good stuff. They got to cook with big screen TVs and all kinds of stuff. That's the wrong one.
so we were hoping maybe some video of a Maori parliamentarian in New Zealand dancing. I thought maybe it was in support of Donald Trump. You got a look at that, didn't you, Mike?
Which one was that again? I couldn't hear it.
The woman in the New Zealand Parliament, the Maori Prime.
Yeah, so, they were having quite a disruption there on that, and when their session in their legislature. They're, in New Zealand, the original tribes are Maori, so I was telling Cliff the other day that they teach both Maori and English in New Zealand. Those are all their signs and all their stuff is in those two languages. And there's a law proposed in New Zealand that the Maori feel that they're going to lose some of their rights for land and other rights that was agreed to in a treaty years ago. So this one legislative representative started what they call a haka, H-A-K-A, and it's a ceremonial dance in protest. So it was quite the disruption in their legislative session, what was going on. They had a gallery, representatives, they're all chanting basically against this new law. So I don't know if they were able to stop it or not. I haven't read enough on that, whether they were able to get a vote against it.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to watch. I saw it on Fox News. They didn't have much of an explanation, but they had it there.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to mention why they were doing it. It had to do with their land rights and other rights that had been agreed to in a treaty back in the late 1800s. So that's why they were doing this as a protest.
Yeah. I had wished, especially if you would be here, so we could talk about Friday was the anniversary of the beginning of the Berlin Conference of 1884-85, where the European nations got together and divided up how they were going to colonize Africa, which was not a good thing. But speaking of that, the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa plus all got together in Kazan in Tatarstan, Russia, and they're looking to provide an alternate to the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And it turns out the BRICS represent about half the world's population, and they actually have a gross national product that's bigger than that of the G7 nations, which is U.S., Canada, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, and the UK. So their economies are growing at about 5%. Europe is growing at about 1 or 2%, and Germany is going in the wrong direction. Even the UN Secretary General showed up. So we need to be paying attention to those third world countries, because they're becoming second world.
Who are you telling to pay more attention to those countries, Cliff? We are.
Yeah, we need to be, we the United States.
So you're going to call Donald and tell him that? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to call Donald.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So speaking of Donald, do we think he's going to be able to end the war in Ukraine?
Yep.
I believe that he's going to try to make some kind of deal. I don't know if Putin or Zelensky are going to be happy with the end results entirely, but I have a feeling that he's going to push really hard to end that war and come and try to get that over with, because the cost to both countries is phenomenal. I mean, I don't think Putin cares how many people he loses, because nobody's going to kick him out of power. Now they're bringing in North Korean troops to do that. But now Biden has just authorized the use of the longer range missiles, which frees up Europe now to start providing some of that too. So, but like I said, I don't see anybody winning on either side for this war. The Ukrainians are not going to give up no matter what. And Putin, because he has unlimited resources and doesn't care how many people die, from his own troops and that he's, it's going to go on unless they can come to some kind of agreement. The only way I see that they can do anything to end the Ukrainian war with Russia is they somehow financially hurt Russia. And then those people that are involved with money in Russia are going to put pressure on Putin. But unless that happens, I don't see anything ending soon.
Yeah, and that's one of the places where the BRICS come in, because they provide alternative flows of money for Russia. They're trying to move the trade in oil away from the dollar and into local currencies.
Yeah, well, Russia, is able to sell a lot of oil to China, but China doesn't need as much oil as they used to, and their economy is not doing exactly great. So that could, Russia's depending on selling all that oil to China, but if China needs less oil, then that could hurt them too, as far as that goes. And as far as the BRICS go, everything I keep reading about it is, it doesn't look like the dollar has gotten any weaker. Because, the reason the dollar is so strong is because the United States and Europe, the industrialized countries, back it all, and everybody uses it. A lot of these smaller countries that are joining BRICS are getting involved, trying to trade in their own currency with other countries. They're not all exactly agreeing to that. Even India, which is part of BRICS, is trading still in the dollar quite a bit. They're not trading with these other countries in local currencies. So it's going to be a while before that affects things. The dollar has been very strong this year, and I don't see it going away very soon.
So, switching back to the U.S.,
Well, speaking of Ukraine and all that other good stuff, okay? This is on YouTube this morning. And Russian cruise ship with North Korean elite generals sunk by the Ukrainian F-16. It was an ambush. And
I'm sorry, say it again?
came out a minute ago. Let me shrink it up so you can see the boat. This is off of YouTube. I'm just trying to get the YouTube channel up, and this came up on my message thing. And it says 1 minute ago, okay, whenever that was, and it says 2 days ago. So this should already be in the news. Russian cruise ship with North Korean elite generals sunk by Ukrainian F-16. That's the, and we haven't heard that in the news. Did you hear, I was watching French news this morning, and they're bellyaching there that Trump's going to help Putin, and Putin is Trump's buddy. And he said the interest rate in Russia right now is 21%. That's pretty stiff interest, 21%.
It is. That's not good. So, did you hear, John, where Ukraine was making some noises about building a nuclear weapon?
I don't know what you mean by that, Cliff. No, I did not hear a thing.
An A-bomb. That Ukraine
So
is...
making noise in Ukraine and all the other good stuff, could you put that into a simpler question?
Have you heard any rumors that Ukraine is considering building a nuclear weapon that they can use against Russia?
You're the first one to tell me that. I have not
Okay.
heard that before this morning.
Mike, had you heard that?
No, I have not.
Oh, wow, that's good.
It doesn't strike me as violating any international law, considering that Russia has broken the Budapest Agreement under which Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons. So that would be a new wrinkle, not a good one. So I saw over the weekend where Maura Healey has said she's not going to join the governor's Safeguarding Democracy alliance that's presently being pushed by Illinois Governor J.D. Pritzker and Colorado Governor Janet Polis. I mean, do they think they're going to push back against the federal government when it comes to...
Could you give us a bigger picture of what you just talked about there, Cliff? Some alliance for something, are they making pancakes, or do they want to make waffles? What does this organization want to do? And why did the governor join? I thought the governor liked breakfast.
You thought the government liked
I
breakfast?
thought she liked breakfast.
Yeah. So, you know that the 5th of November, Trump was elected, and several Democratic governors became very excited about things he might do, like the governor of Illinois claiming that Trump was going to restrict the freedoms of people who are citizens of Illinois. So Governor Gavin Newsom in California has called the legislature back into session to pass laws to protect the people of California from the federal government. And several Democratic governors have formed an alliance called Government Safeguarding Democracy.
Oh, there you go. There's the pancake stuff. So, my take on this, Cliff, is all these states that are pushing back and say, we're not going to have anything to do with immigration. We're not going to have anything to do with this democracy. You got to throw it in their face right away that this is not a peaceful transfer of power, is it, Democrats? Is this a peaceful transfer of power? You got to throw this in their face right this instant. And while you're at it, you tell the community that they govern, all the migrants who are in other states who think they're going to get kicked out of the United States are coming to your town. Make room, Lowell, because the governor loves to send people here. So right now we're still working with trying to get the homeless a good place to go for the winter and for the rest of their lives for that matter. Making room for the migrants to come up here. Nice job. Thank you so much, Governor. You don't think they're coming here? Thoughts, Cliff?
Oh, yeah. I think that we could find them coming here, but at the same time, there's been a committee looking at all this and saying we have to reduce cost. I don't know how that's going to work. But,
Well, I mean, Cliff, one of the, you're talking about these governors, the governor from New York, Ocho, your governor from Massachusetts, they're all trying to be part of this. But I'm going to tell you right now, the new border czar, Tom Homan, he's very adamant about what's going to happen. He's going after anybody who's got a criminal record or was already been decided that their asylum's been denied. And he's basically saying either cooperate or get the hell out of the way. I mean, if anybody knows who Tom Homan is, he's not going to mess around. If he said it, it's going to happen. This guy is, he's going to go in there and he's going to root out all the criminal immigrants. And the news is trying to twist it like they're going after everybody. But he's saying we're going after all the criminals and the people that have been denied asylum. And he's also adamant when he was asked about, if the parents were going to be deported, what about the kids? And he says, there's no rule against deporting the whole family. So I have a feeling if they're deporting the parents, they're going to deport the kids too that are involved with criminal activities. I mean, this is not going to be pretty, but it's necessary because people want the law followed and they want the border secured. And it's not going to make everybody happy, but it's going to get done because it has to be done.
Well, I think that's a good point. In a way, these governors are taking us back 200 years to when South Carolina put up a bill for nullification in which they claimed the right to nullify any federal law that they wanted to, which would have led to chaos and eventually led to the Civil War about 30 years later. But we've been through this kind of thing before about what rights do states have against the federal government. I mean, we have the 10th Amendment, but I think that securing the border is pretty squarely a federal responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's the states can say all they want, but this has to do with protection of the country and the border, and that's not a state's right to secure the border. That's a federal job to do that. And it's what's happening now is a lot of these different people were sneaky about how they did things, and they weren't out in the open. What's happening now with the way Trump's picking people for the cabinet and other things, they're not trying to hide how they are and how they look at things. They're looking at if the rules don't fit in the way they want, then they're going to just do anything they want. They figure they can just do what they want, and that's not going to happen. I mean, a good example of that is the Senate race in Pennsylvania with Casey there. There's an automatic recount because it's so close, but that one place in Bucks County, the one person on the for the voting doing the ballots is basically saying, I don't care what the rules are, we're going to do what we want. We don't care what our own state Supreme Court has decided that these votes are illegal. We're still going to count them anyways so that our candidate can win. Well, I mean, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that person's in violation of voting laws, and they should be arrested and charged with, breaking the law. But that won't happen. But I mean, that's how it is now. They're so desperate because they lost so badly in the election that they can't fathom that maybe they need to readjust on how they deal with, look at what people want.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting what's going on in Bucks County. Bucks County is sort of like the area between 95 and 495. It's an upper middle class sort of neighborhood. It's and at one time it was living high on the hog because there was a steel mill paying big taxes. Governor Healy here in Massachusetts has actually distanced herself a little bit from the governor's safeguarding democracy movement. So I think maybe she's figured out which way the winds are blowing.
Well, a lot of this issue with voting with illegal or legal ballots could be fixed if they just had government-issued ID you had to show when you voted. I mean, this thing with signatures, whether they're legal or not, you dated things right or not, If they just use things with government issued IDs, there would be a lot less issues on who the people were and whether they could vote or not. It's a simple thing. I mean, even countries like Iran, Iraq, when people vote, they got to show government issued IDs for voting there. I mean, why is the U.S. so adamant about not requiring IDs to vote? I don't see the issue with that, unless they're want to have people fraudulently voting. I mean, in New York, it's a complete joke on voting, because all you have to do is show up and just sign on the form. You don't have to show any government issued ID or anything, which is ridiculous. Because what do they have? Handwriting experts at the voting booths? At the voting polls? I mean, it's just that you got to show it for almost everything else you do involved with the government. Whether you're buying alcohol, you're going to get a driver's license, you're going to, buy a house or a car. I mean, if you're going to go on a cruise, you got to show government issued ID so you are who you are. But for voting, no, don't need that at all. So it makes no sense.
I got some texts here I'm going to read to you guys. I'm going to blow them up so you can read them at home if you want to. And it says, the baby Democrats better watch out. Mr. Holman is no nonsense guy, and the American people want the border closed. I got two more coming up here. Let me just blow them up a little bit. Oh, this is good. They blow up automatic. Okay. Good morning. Once we start drilling for that liquid gold, the war in Ukraine will probably go away. Continuing on, Maura Healey is yesterday. The Democrats are moving back to the center, and they're never going to have the big chair again. The Republicans had their big wave. They didn't get 2 years ago. Thank you for your comments. If you want to send a comment, you can actually you can call the show today too. We've got telephones back too, so you can send us a text. You can send us a text to my cell phone. The number's on the screen there, or Facebook. You can do it also on YouTube. So I'm looking for texts all the time. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to add on there too that I've been saying for well over a year about this election that people vote with their pocketbooks. They always vote. It doesn't matter what all the other things are, and it showed that people voted with their pocketbooks. And I mean, the Democrats were in total shock that Trump won all the swing states, especially and including the one other state that had the false poll, which was Iowa. I mean, they can't understand how he was able to get all these votes, and he won the popular vote on top of it. So they can't even use that as a talking point any longer. People understand when it affects their pocketbooks, they want to change, and they're also with all the crime and all look at every government now, whether it's New York City, major cities, Chicago. Chicago was trying to vote to raise taxes by over $300 million to cover all the illegal migrants, and that got voted down the city council just recently. I was watching on the news this morning. I mean, people understand that we're spending money and not helping our own citizens, our own veterans, our own homeless. I mean, those are the people we should be addressing. And we need to have immigration. I've never denied that. But we need to have it legally, and we need to have it done the right way. And even Miami and Florida, that area, voted for Trump because a lot of those people came here legally, and they're fed up with all the crime and all the other things that are going on and the cost to their governments to house all the people that are here illegally. So Tom Homan, he's not messing around. If he says either cooperate or get out of my way, he means it. And I hope all those places understand that. He's not going to be messing around.
Yeah, got any thoughts, John?
We're going to have all this rabble-rousing because in the back of our mind, it doesn't come to the front of our mind too often, the media is still red-hot mad about Donald Trump. There is no way they're going to make him look good. Everybody he wants in his cabinet is crooked, communist. What are some other bad words we can use? So I guess we can use those two without offending anybody. And Donald Trump himself, they're not going to make him look good. He's crooked, communist. Sleeps in the same bed as Putin. They're shacking up together someplace in space. And the media is red hot mad at Donald Trump, and that's not going away because he calls them fake news.
But I've seen recently where there's been little ripples in the at the corporate end of newspapers like the LA Times, the Washington Post, and the New York Times over having gone too far, too progressive. Have you seen that, Mike?
Yes. Yeah, they're looking and saying, hey, maybe we need to have a balance from both sides to present to the public, on things. People are, they're tired of it being, one-sided. But unfortunately, with the press and the media, this is nothing new. If anybody looks at history in the United States, go back to the early 1900s with Hearst Publishing and the yellow journalism. This has been going on with the media for 100 years, being slanted and biased. So it's not anything new. It's just that now people can go to multiple sources to get information, where before, 20, 30 years ago, before the internet and podcasts and social media exploded, they were limited on what they could see or had access to. But now people have access to a whole bunch of stuff, and they're starting to see how one-sided some of this media is. So they need to wake up and understand what's going on now and, adjust on how they present stuff to the public.
Yeah, I think we saw Eileen mentioned how she's picking up on Megyn Kelly by looking at short YouTube clips. I think this election showed that alternative media can be a big factor. I think the Joe Rogan podcast was believed to have been a factor in Donald Trump getting a lot of votes. Trump was on with Joe Rogan for 3 hours? And
Yeah.
Kamala Harris was on for 0 seconds.
Well, I think, they made a big, now what they're saying is they're trying to blame everything for the loss on Biden, and then they're trying to blame, Harris didn't have enough time, she only had this much time, they should have gotten Biden out earlier. Well, whose fault is that? It's the Democratic Party. I know John always talks about the Democratic machine getting the vote out. Well, it looks like they got outmaneuvered by the Republicans this time.
Well,
They need to readjust.
Monday morning quarterback.
Get back into the national, politics again. From this election, they're going to need to readjust on how they approach people. Think about this. They talked about how many doors they knocked on to talk to people. Well, Trump went to Joe Rogan, and he's got, millions and millions of people. I forgot how many tens of millions of people listen to his podcast. He didn't have to knock on one door to do that, to get to all these people. So, he understood media and how it affects and gets out to people, where the Democrats are still knocking on doors and trying to talk to people, when he went for 3 hours and reached more people in 3 hours than they did, and the entire time they're knocking on doors. So, if you want to get the people, you got to understand where they're looking for the information.
John.
The election was a nail-biter. Everybody in this room will admit that the day after Election Day, maybe we were happy, but we were also surprised that Trump won. I was surprised Trump won. I thought Kamala had it. That was my take. You were betting on it, Cliff, that Trump won?
Yeah,
I was not surprised.
No,
I was not surprised Trump won at all, to be quite honest, because of the way he was able to connect with people. The problem with the national candidates from the Democratic parties, they don't connect with people. That's why they lost this race. Trump was able to connect with people. He went to McDonald's and serving people. The garbage truck thing, people can relate to that. The podcast with Joe Rogan. I mean, people didn't look at him as a billionaire. They looked at somebody who understands what people in their daily lives are trying to do or look for or get. And Kamala could not do that. She just could not connect with the people.
Cliff,
John,
Mike cut your thoughts off.
I was cautiously optimistic going into the election because I thought that Trump was doing a lot of smart things, like his going into Brooklyn was dismissed as of no value because he wasn't going to win New York. But I think the fact that he went into Brooklyn got him a lot of exposure across the country, and that helped him garner additional votes elsewhere.
He won by 1 million votes in Massachusetts. 1 million. Oh,
didn't-
I know you like to correct me, so please do.
Okay,
But,
you
you know
said he
what-
won by 1 million votes in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Then how come Harris got it?
I said that reversed, Cliff. Thank
Oh.
you for helping me out today.
You're welcome. He won some communities. For instance, he won in Draycott. I think it was like
Who's the he?
Trump,
Oh,
as opposed to her or Harris. I think he got something like 54% of the vote in Draycott, but Draycott's a special place.
Harris won Lowell.
Yes,
Harris won the state
yes,
by 1 million votes.
okay.
Well, that's not a surprise that Harris won in Massachusetts, just like Harris won California and New York. That was not a surprise at all. But what was the big surprise is that Trump, on all the critical swing states, won every single one of them. So that was what the people were shocked on, that he won every single swing state. And in some ways that didn't surprise me, because he went there, like I said, I think the reason Trump won is because he connected with people. They connected with them in what they were looking for in their daily lives, what they want. And Harris just could not connect. She didn't seem like she was approachable and connectable. And when you're talking about politics, if people don't seem to connect with that politician, they're not going to vote for him. Vote for him or her. So I think that was the big issue with Harris. She was not connectable. And for bringing out all the Hollywood stars and all the other stuff, that didn't seem to ring with people, that convinced them to vote. Between Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Oprah, that didn't seem to send votes back to Harris at all.
The thing that, one of the things that surprised me about the election was 13 million people that turned out to vote for Joe Biden did not turn out to vote for Kamala Harris. Overall, 2024 was 14 1/3 million fewer votes than 2020. And I don't know where they went.
Well, I have some thoughts on that. Remember, in 2020, there's a lot more mail-in ballots, a lot more, because of COVID. So I think that, people were not mailing as many mail-in ballots. But there was a lot of early voting this year, but I don't think as many people did the mail-in ballots. So I think that affected things. People that may have done them before did not do mail-in or go and vote. And part of it could have been is they didn't like either candidate. That could be part of the reason there was less people voting. They said, I don't like either one, so I'm not going to vote at all. So.
John, did you say that the line was longer than normal when you voted?
Yes, and most of my friends reported the same to me. Text just came in from Jay. The people had enough of the Biden administration lying to the people for the last 4 years. Jay, lying is not against the law in this country. Listen to our commercials on TV. And I brought this up on Friday, Cliff, that the 81 million votes that Joe Biden got 4 years ago, I never stood in line before to vote for like I did this last election. I thought would be way over 81 million votes. And there's 5 million votes missing. 5 million people less voted. And so you want to convince me that, oh, those were mail-in votes. Something still happened in the last election. Nobody likes to hear that, but too bad. Move on.
Yeah, I'm waiting to do the state-by-state comparison.
Is Eileen still here? Or is she gone?
Eileen, I think, is en route and may have turned her phone off.
Ah, okay.
That, yeah, it's not 5 million, it's 14 million votes difference. 14 million votes.
Meaning, would you expand on that 14 million votes, Cliff?
Yes, a total of 155.5 million people voted in 2020, and in 2024, I've got 141 million. There's a big difference.
Yep. Nobody wants to look back there,
That's true.
especially in this state. What do you think about that gal who's trying to go after the State House to audit them? They fixed her wagon, didn't they?
How's that?
They want an independent auditor. They don't want her to audit her because she has a scowl on her face. Coming from the audience. And it says, when she said she would keep everything the same on The View, that statement killed her. Very good point.
I think so. I think.
Well, but
Go ahead, Mike.
yeah, it was interesting. If you look at the follow-up with when they interviewed, what's her name from The View, about that, she goes, yeah, I basically, when she said that to me, she goes, then I said, really nothing? She says, I gave her a layup question and she still couldn't answer it. So, I mean, that shows, what shocked me is not so much that she asked her the second question, is that she was trying to help her. She was so biased, instead of just trying to get the information out of her, you know, that it just shows how biased is. And The View, that, I mean, the latest with Oprah, you know, with, I don't know if you saw that with New York City with the bakery. Boy, I mean,
No, not Oprah. That was
I'm sorry,
Whoopi.
not Oprah. Whoopi Goldberg. I'm sorry, not Oprah. Oprah's the other one with
No, you don't have to worry about that
she said
stuff,
she
Mike.
didn't
You'll
get
always
paid.
get fixed.
But with Whoopi Goldberg with the bakery, she inferred that the reason she didn't get her order is because it was political. When, you know, they had a news conference. I watched it the other day, and they came out and said they actually were having problems with their boiler to make the stuff. And the owner of the place says, I told them that I wasn't going to do their order because I couldn't guarantee I could fill it. And then the next day they did fill it because they were able to get everything working again or whatever. So, I mean, that just shows you the bias, on The View on how it is. Everything's political. Instead of just accepting it that, hey, we can't fill your order with these bakery items because our equipment is not working right. They immediately went to politics for it. And that's not good at all. The View is going to be going away. That show is not going to be around. I mean, I think I read that they're not going to continue it. Sometime this coming year, it's going to be taken off the air, which I think is actually a good thing because they were so one-sided. They did. And then if they had anybody on that panel that was against what the rest of them were, they just hammered on that person, didn't show any respect for their view at all. I'm just hoping that in this election, people will finally start to respect each other. Just because you have different viewpoints, at least respect each other. You don't have to agree. We'll see if that'll happen or not. I just think with the news the way it is, it's going to keep feeding that divisive opinions with people.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to work on that. We had last week the U.S. rep just east of us, Seth Moulton, came out and said he was against transgenders in girls' sports, and he got hammered for that. But at least he got a conversation started. I was thinking that we might not get a conversation for 2 years amongst the Democrats because they were in a bit of a state of shock. John, did you follow that Seth Moulton thing any?
Well, when's the next time Seth Moulton has to run for re-election?
2 years.
So he can be as cocky as he wants to. He doesn't need the Democratic Party this week. Did you see how delicious the cupcakes look from that bakery? Our audience loves them. Whoopie Pie is a horrible person. Oh. What are the ratings of the gutter show? So I don't know what the ratings are, but back to you, Cliff. Thanks.
Yep.
The reason she can be that way is because she's got a ton of money. She's untouchable. She just says whatever she wants. She doesn't care whether it's true or not because who's gonna do anything? But from what I understand is the lawyer for that company, they're looking to sue her for slander, and I think they'll win because that hurt they said the threats and all the stuff coming up with them for their business. You're talking financially impacting a business with no basis for it. And I hope that they do sue her, and I hope they do win, because that'll set the record straight that you can't just say that kind of stuff just because you feel like it and impact other people with no basis for it.
Yeah, sort of the reverse of what happened to Rudy Giuliani. They apparently are...
His pardon's coming.
Yeah, but I thought he was sued in state court.
His pardon's coming.
So...
Trump won't write the check to New York, and New York will cave.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
That's what money has.
Well, speaking of New York, since you're talking about New York, I don't know if anybody's been following that trial from the subway issue.
Yeah.
That one person there. The Marine. I'm hoping that the people that are on the jury will realize what he was doing. They have witness after witness saying that they feared for their life and they're happy that he did something. And Bragg has still brought this thing to trial. This is how arrogant he is, that he figures he can do whatever he wants. He should take a lesson from California, where they just threw out that attorney general there, or district attorney. He should take a note from that and realize that people are getting fed up with this, going after people when there's no reason for it.
Yeah, what's that guy's name? Denny?
I can't remember. Penny. Kathy just said his name.
Penny, that's right.
But they supposedly brought on one of the people who trained him in the Marines and said he didn't do it right and he did it for too long. Well, when in a situation like that where people are threatened for their lives, the adrenaline is going. I don't know how I'd react in something like that. If the guy was threatening to kill everybody and saying he didn't care about it, I don't know if I would be real careful on how I did a chokehold on him. If I was doing it, I'd want him just to be out so that he wasn't threatening anybody.
Yeah, I think that's right. You're in that situation, you don't want to give up too soon because then the person can come right back around and get you. You've got an advantage. You don't want to give it up. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, just think about, I was just listening to Kathy making a comment. Just think about if he had just sat there and not done anything. Who knows if people would have been dead or what would have happened to people because of this person. I mean, it's just...
What was that famous murder, 40, 50 years ago in New York where all the neighbors heard the commotion and nobody did anything? Remember that?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but it's, well, it's the same thing now. They're having the big trial with Lake and Riley.
Yeah.
With that one that's going on too. And it's kind of ridiculous, but I understand the defense lawyer has to try to defend his client. But he's trying to say that it wasn't him, it was one of his brothers, and that DNA evidence is not really valid evidence to use. I mean, they have his fingerprints on her phone. They got video of him. They've got the blood, from her scratching him under her fingernails. They got that as evidence also. So it's kind of ridiculous. I understand the lawyer has to try to defend him, but they're thinking that maybe a judge will somehow rule in his favor. I highly doubt that. I think the only reason they went away from a jury trial is because now by going through the judge, there's no death penalty involved with this. I mean, but that's another thing. They find him guilty. What is he, in his 20s? He could be in our system for another 50 years or more. And we're paying all that money to keep him in there. I mean, obviously we don't want him out on the streets because he's a killer, but think about all the money, and we're also spending all the money to defend him on top of it. It's not one lawyer, it's a team of lawyers that the government's paying for.
That's right. Well, at least they're not going for a death penalty. That would be very expensive with all the appeals. But even so, he's probably costing $60,000 a year to keep him incarcerated.
I got two
Please.
comments.
Well, the thing that worries me is they say that he's going to get a sentence that he'll never get any parole if he's found guilty. He has a lifetime in jail, but who knows if that's really going to happen? That's the thing that bothers me. Whether they're really going to keep him in there until he dies.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, we blew right through the break, Cliff. I mean,
Oh.
It's very interesting how you can know when the break is coming on Friday and you don't know the break's coming today. It's very interesting. Moving right along here. The name Whoopi Goldberg may have to be retired and changed back to Karen Elaine Johnson. I never knew this guy suggesting that's her real name, Karen Elaine Johnson. Never knew that. Thank you for your comment. I got one more to go. And maybe on the subway system there should be law enforcement like the sky marshals. There should be law enforcement everywhere, it's my book, but it's not. Take a ride on the highway.
So, welcome to the City Life Show. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. Ferdinand Kembang has not been able to make it. He got missed a flight in Dallas. Eileen Delrossi should be coming through the door any minute now, and we have Mike Smith zooming in from outside of St. Petersburg, Florida, where the weather, I assume, is good, Mike, right?
Yeah, it's been in the 80s, and we haven't really had any rain at all since Milton, when that happened, that storm. So that's back, let's see, 12, since about the 10th or 11th of October. So it's been over a month with no rain down here. It's been hot. They're still talking about possibly another storm this coming week, Sarah, maybe hitting Florida, but they still haven't determined any of that, whether it's really going to come here or not yet. But we'll see. we'll see what happens.
Are people upset in Florida about this revelation that FEMA was telling its employees to avoid houses with Trump flags or Trump lawn signs?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot on the news. People were not happy at all. They had multiple politicians on the different local stations and national news, and they're definitely, but you know, they did fire that person because they really had no choice. I mean, it was, you know, the people that work for her, you know, basically turned her in. But I mean, from what I understand, this is not something new with FEMA. This was not something new at all. That this was common practice. That they were directed on some of this.
Well, that's
the scary part. That's the really scary part.
That's what she said, that this was common practice in FEMA. That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, this is a person who got fired who actually is admitting this was going on. Where FEMA's saying this is isolated one employee, it's not. So, I mean, it's that's the part that scares me the most, is that they were doing this. And this is another reason why we need to root out and disrupt all these government bureaucracies. Because if we don't make changes in these departments and different bureaucracies, if we don't root out this kind of thinking, in 4 years when Trump leaves office or whoever leaves office that's trying to do it, and somebody else comes and says, yeah, go right back to where you were before. So they need to make some big changes with regulations or laws or whatever they have to do to root out this kind of thinking. Because, I mean, for FEMA, that should be a non-political organization, department. There should be no politics involved with that at all. People need help in an emergency, they go help them. It doesn't matter who you are, you know, what political affiliation, what your ethnicity is. It shouldn't matter at all. People need help, you go help them. That's what that department was designed to do and why it was created. And politics should have nothing to do with that at all.
You know, I agree with you. Your worst enemy should get as fair a treatment from FEMA as you should.
Shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter at all. People's homes got destroyed or they need help. That's the purpose of that department. It shouldn't matter who or what you are.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter at all. Shouldn't matter.
Eileen Delrossi has joined us in person,
Good morning.
and you got Anthony off okay?
Yes, bus was a little late this morning.
Ooh.
So that's what tripped me up a little bit, but
So I
worked out.
saw a headline this morning that now I have, special education is becoming more expensive for schools. That's one reason why they can't pay educators more.
Because we outsourced it. Well, the government's paying the bill, it skyrockets.
Yeah, there was a while we were filling out all this, can I see that, actually?
Yes.
Yeah, we were filling out all this information for the state to prove our services. It seems like that stopped. At one point, I don't know when, but special education is becoming more expensive for schools. That's one reason why they can't pay educators more. I don't think the even title of this is true. Huge special ed tuition bills among the many rising costs to the districts. I could see that for like out of district placing and maybe for the BCBAs and so forth, but what I think is the bigger issue, especially since post-COVID, everyone wants their child to be in special ed. Everybody wants them to get extra help, which it's inevitable that most students are behind. But the constant testing of students who may just be behind and not truly have a learning disability. We're bombarded with schedules, with caseloads, and then when we are supposed to service our students and be teaching them, then we're getting pulled for a meeting here or a meeting there or a duty for general education. So it's just that special educators are not proportioned correctly enough because, and they said it in Beverly and Marblehead and Gloucester. I heard somebody say last week, if you think your special education child is getting even the services that you think they should, they're not. And I just think the whole special ed system is bombarded right now, and it's unrealistic for them to be able to keep up, essentially. That's what I think Roma has created. But I just think special ed is, and Bob Hoey says this all the time, it's one of the most funded departments in education for every school district. It's about using it as efficiently and effectively as possible instead of saying one teacher can do services and meetings. It needs to be streamlined better.
So, somewhere in my notes here, I've got something about, oh yeah, here we go. So, President Trump and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are talking about streamlining the government, and one of the issues is the Federal Department of Education and whether or not it's contributing anything besides being a funnel for money. But I looked up that where we rank internationally, and we come in number 13 amongst the various nations in terms of education performance. We're behind Iceland, Germany, New Zealand, Norway.
Yeah, but they cheat on the test.
How do you know that?
One of my friends told me.
And who is this friend of yours that said that?
Joe Biden.
Well,
I made it up, Cliff.
You need to.
I made it up, but when you look at, do you really think this government is crazy about fairness? Other governments are not. You're a global traveler, Cliff. Do you really trust the government? You really trust the government of Germany? I don't.
As much as any.
I don't.
Let's give you an example of why I trust
You
the
trust
government
Sweden?
of Germany.
Trust Sweden?
Well, they're stupid, but aside from that. But back to Germany.
Well, what
We
is-
bought,
Go ahead.
we bought a second phone. So we had one in the living room and one in the bedroom, so that when we called back to the United States, my wife and I could both be on the phone at the same time.
That was smart.
Except for one problem. If you pick up one of the phones, it cuts off the other phone. So I went to the Bundespost and complained about this.
What is
and
the Bundespost, Cliff? Most of the audience.
Post office.
Oh, that's so you go down to the post office to complain about your phone. That's a good government you have over there.
Yeah. And they said, we're doing this to protect the privacy of individuals. Well, I thought that was pretty good.
So why didn't you have a speakerphone?
We didn't have speakerphones.
They weren't invented yet?
No.
Okay, so that was in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
The Wayback Machine, gotcha.
That was, 1963 was when they first got push-button phones.
God. Cliff, that's like 60 years ago.
It is like 60 years
That's
ago.
when there was a string between two phones, when the string would break sometimes.
Yeah. I lived in a town where there was an operator and there was no rotary dial. You just picked up the phone and talked to the operator if somebody else wasn't on the line.
That's before my time.
But,
I gotta take Fru off too. Fru's not here today. I'm editing this YouTube thing's pretty cool. It can, you can edit in real time. Amazing.
I think governments are stupid sometimes, but I think governments in Europe still reeling from the events of 100 years ago, or that they try and do a good job.
My remark about governments cheating on their scores, you don't think that happens?
It's entirely possible, yeah.
Okay, so this is with the 13th smartest school system on the planet. I don't believe it.
Do you think we're more like 15th or 16th?
No, I think America has got to tell the parent of the child has homework. Find someone to help that kiddo with homework, or you're dooming that kid to the same life you have.
Yeah, you and I are on the same sheet of music there.
And if more mothers, single moms, look, I don't like my dad, but I'm going to have my dad go over the homework with my kid because I have to work. You got to find somebody. I don't care if it's your neighbor. You got to find somebody to help your kid with their homework. And if you don't, you're dooming the kid to the same lifestyle that you're in.
Yeah, good point. I think that from a school district perspective, I'd like to see us develop a program of outreach to try and get volunteer older people to work with kids after school for free.
I would like to see our educators, our superintendents, and our teachers be encouraged to have the kiddos use their smartphones in a fashion to help them learn. Instead of saying, shut them off, put them in this box, you're not allowed to have them, they're going to have a cell phone long after you're in the grave. Cell phones are not going to go anywhere. We're addicted, like we're addicted to electricity, we're addicted to the internet. You go into a restaurant and you see husband, wife, 2 kids, all 4 of them are on their phone, not conversing at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Welcome to America. That happens, I saw the same thing happening in Russia. The addictiveness of our phones, we should use this addictiveness to help make our kids smarter.
I think that you're right. So, speaking of schools, the school committee meets this week. You part-timers.
Part-timers.
And I see Connie Martin's going to request the establishment of a monthly curriculum and instruction subcommittee to provide consistent updates on classroom implementation of curriculum initiatives and teaching practices across the district.
I like that motion.
Yeah.
Very good motion.
And
Just so we're, on the same page.
Dave Conway and Connie Martin and Jackie Doherty, they want new Lowell School building on University Avenue at the former Jeanne d'Arc School to be named after former longtime superintendent George Nicholas Sapasaris.
Oh,
That seems reasonable.
yeah. He was a good superintendent.
Why don't we name it after Bud Caulfield?
Was he ever superintendent?
He was mayor. He was in charge of the school committee.
Okay. Well, between Sapasaris and Bud Caulfield, you'd go with Bud Caulfield?
Yes, I would.
Well, we got
Let's name
3.
something after Bud. Sapasaris, I think he has stuff at the high school named after him.
Ah.
That's my memory. But Hoey's here. Hoey knows better.
So
What becomes tomorrow.
Dave Conway is going to request the superintendent to give a update on the presentation, of the 2024 presidential mock election for all Lowell High School students and personnel. Did people besides the students get to vote in the mock election?
Well, if Dave Conway gets this update, then we'll all know. I don't know right now. I know that they have a great mock election. At the high school, they have a mock trial program. I know all of that. I don't know the specifics, though.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to find out. And Eileen Delrossi wants the superintendent to work with staff to apply for supporting effective instruction state grants. You want us to get more money.
Yes, and with the new budget that you sent me, these are the ones that really popped out to me.
Hey, Cliff? No, I'm sorry, Eileen, when you're done, sorry.
Supporting effective instruction, state grants, student support, and academic grants, English language acquisition, and Promise Neighborhood grants. They're all applicable to inner city schools and would help us to get more money to create a more, I think, overall effective school to home, home to school relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric Gitchier suggests we name that facility after George Bossy.
George Bossy. I like that.
Tell us about George.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I know he was very involved in the wrestling. He helped, develop and keep the wrestling programs in Lowell, and I think they even branched out even more. Eric, help me out here with more information. I'm sure you have more information. He's done a lot of fundraising and put together a lot of ways to keep wrestling alive in Lowell, which has been huge for a lot of students. But that's what I know. He's a great guy who has really put his life into wrestling in the city of Lowell and making that program work.
So, and then you have a motion to request superintendent update the committee on the current state of bus transportation. Do you have some reason to think we have a problem?
Well, I know that transportation has been a struggle overall, and we were updated, last year a couple of times on what's the issues, the graveness of the bus situation. So just a quick update on what's going on with the state of transportation in the city. Do we need to meet in a subcommittee to talk more about it, or what's going on?
Okay.
Hey, Eric, you want to talk? Hang on. Eric Gitchier's on the phone.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, Eric.
Okay, Eric, you're on, baby.
Good morning.
Good
How are you
morning.
guys?
Good.
Good, how are you doing?
I'm good. When you look at George Bossy, he was much more than a wrestling coach. He was an educator for over 40 years in the system also. He donated his time to the community. He drove kids back and forth who had nothing and pushed them to higher college and to do things unbelievable in the community. He's one of those voices that, is on had more impact than just one thing. And I think that's what you look for. I understand, what other people did when they were at the top and made the decisions, but what does someone in the middle do? And I think George Bossy was one of those people who just went way above and beyond. He was a big voice in the neighborhood. He had a huge following, 87 years old, 57 years as a wrestling coach. And it's just an amazing story when you look at it. So I think, you're looking at 60 years of giving back to a community, and he was an educator. So I think that's what people have to understand. He worked in the school system as an educator.
Right. And do you know how long Sapan Saris was in as a superintendent? Was he one of the longer ones?
He was one of the longer ones, and he did amazing things too. So you're comparing two really good choices. But I just think when you look at George Bossy and you look at his gift to not only the education piece, but to the after-school piece, but to his volunteerism in the community, to giving everybody everything that they looked for and challenging people at the same time. He didn't just give you something; he made you work for it, and he's just an unbelievable voice for the kids, and I think that for our community, he did amazing things.
I think you're making a good point. It's that middle leadership that is very important to the successful execution of the program, and
I think we always look at the top, Cliff, when we look at things, because they ultimately, they get their decision-making power from, if you have a decent middle management, that's what actually runs the system. At the top, they make some policies and they push the direction, but middle management is the one who has to actually enforce and make it movable and gives you the ideas that makes you successful. I've been in both places, and at the top, I get a lot of credit for things that maybe I don't do. And others do, but I'm in charge of, I oversee them. And I think that that's where, the grind is at the middle management, and we never really give them enough credit.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is just a question. I'm sorry, Cliff, for cutting you off. I have, out of not really knowing, where the buildings are owned by the city, even though they're run by the schools day to day. What's the theory on naming a building something? Does it just come up in a vote and the school committee decides, or would the city council have a role in it? And I'm just asking because I honestly have no clue how this is done historically.
I believe there's a panel now. It used to be different, but I believe there's a panel now that names all those buildings. You're right, it is a city building. So it would have to come back to the city side.
So irregardless of what the vote is in the school committee, it would have to go to the city council for approval?
That's my understanding, but it may not be 100% factual, but my understanding is it's a city building, so naming rights we work together either way, so I don't think it's, neither here nor there. At the end of the day, a naming is always an honor for whoever gets it, so I think that it would be a great choice either way. But I think George Bossy is one that gets lost in the shuffle because he was a grunt level, lower level, middle management type. He was the athletic director at one point also. People don't remember that, but he was the athletic director for the city of Lowell also. So, he's had some phenomenal roles at trying to engage. And at the time he was athletic director, the sports did really well.
I got a question for Eric. He can't hear me, so Eileen, will you ask him?
Yeah.
This new regulation they passed about people not being able to sleep on public Lowell city stuff, will that affect the other people who are the migrants that are going to be coming here from other states that don't want to be sent back?
Eric, did you hear him?
I did. If they're sleeping outside, John, but it doesn't seem like the governor wants them to be sleeping outside, so she gives them brand new hotels. Newly renovated hotels. So, that's the chase. We only have so many areas that we could actually use for mental health and other resources like that, human services. And it seems as though we're spending our resources in other areas, and that's the wish of government at this point. But I think that may have some change coming. So hopefully we free up some social services and we start holding people accountable at the judicial level so that we can actually get people help.
The governor wants us to be a sanctuary state. So, Eric, anything big that you have coming up on or anything you want to mention about the city council this week? Do you have anything on the agenda?
I don't have anything on the agenda this week.
Is that the first time you've never had anything on the agenda?
No, the last couple of weeks, it's a settle-in time right now. We're just trying to dial in. I'm looking more at our fiscal responsibilities right now because I think this budget's going to be an extreme challenge. When we were at the senior center the other day, and you have a lot of seniors down there worried about their electric bill, and if it trickled down that far and you look at everything, it's because you're being taxed on the other end that you're worried about this. So if you're worried about $8 in your electric bill, someone has to watch out for the tax base also.
Yeah.
I want to circle back.
We loaded the deck in our operating budget with opera-funded positions, and that's always going to be a challenge when you're looking at them. And I think that, opera money's gone in December, so now what are we going to do to fund these positions? That's the question, and that's been my question for the last 3 years, and because we took one-time money and we have funneled it over to the operations side to cover new positions, which that's never a good idea, as the school department found out when they did that.
But we've got this ARPA money, we've got what, 20 or 30 million left to spend by December?
Yeah, and I think it's all been allocated.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't mean that it has to be allocated by then, and that's the key to the whole purpose of the ARPA funding. But I think there is challenges within there also. I think you're right, because some of it's been allocated a little bit high, I think.
If there was any spare money, I'd want them to drop a couple $1 million to build, to buy some of these tiny houses to house the unhoused and put them out.
Where do you put them, Cliff? And if we're going to give out housing, I want to be the first one, because I don't want to pay for my house either.
Me too. I want
And I've been paying the bills, Cliff, all along. So, at some point, we have to create a society that actually functions off of, okay, we're going to create jobs, we're going to create job skills, and we're going to create this to actually make people productive and earn their way. Right now, we're not doing that. The governor came out and said that she was going to put together trade schools, and we're still waiting. In 1974 was the last real new trade school that was put together and put in place. So, enough of they go around the circle and tell you what they're going to do and never do it because it's election time. And if we really want to change everything, why not start creating jobs and stuff like that, and start giving people job skills that pay a higher wage so they can afford what we demand as a payment.
Well, I agree. I'd like to see the state pony up $3 billion to give us 10 new trade schools and reallocate the districts so we have more kids getting educated.
So the long-term answer is, Cliff, not to just build houses and give things away, but the long-term answer should be to, create more jobs and more positions with job skills to get them to where they need to go.
Right, and resiliency. I went food shopping yesterday, and when I got home, my mother looks at me and she says, "What was this, like $300?" And I said, "No, Mom, it's actually $165. But look, I didn't even get any meat or anything. This is all just like every day, every week stuff." Yeah. And just to think that there are people out there that don't put any money towards their own grocery bill. Like, it's just taken for granted that they have the cards, and it's a huge pressure, and we do need to make people more resilient to be out there and to work and take the blows that we all take and figure it out. And
think about this, Eileen, right? If you made $50,000 and you got a 5% raise, you got a $2,500 increase in your salary this year. If you look at your bill at the supermarket, it's probably gone up $100, so that costs you $52. So you're in the negative by $2,700 before you even start, even with your raise. So, and that's just one part of it. And never mind the amounts that the government and our city has gone up. We went up 5.5% 3 years ago. 2 years ago, we went up 3.5, and this year 2.5, and we're projected probably to go up again in a very large rate because the ARPA money is going to dry up. At some point, people can't. You're eating into everyone's disposable income. So how do you open businesses? How do you push that there's disposable income in the city of Lowell when everyone's pushing? We want more affordable housing and we want all these things, but if there's no disposable income, you're cutting businesses right out, and you're reliant on the government to funnel your funds into your budget and into your system, which that's probably the worst place to be, because once that's mismanaged and they cut back, we're going to lose everything, and that's where we're going.
Eric, before you have to head out, I want to go back to management, because I think maybe, and I'm just checking to see if we're aligned in this idea that the job of upper management is to empower middle and lower management to make things happen, to develop new ideas, to take initiative. And that's why we need to put emphasis on that middle and lower management.
No question, Cliff, and that's where all the training should go in government. I've been saying that for the last 3 years that I've been on the council. The failure of government is the middle management piece. If we don't have middle management who can think outside the box, who can be efficient and effective, then we all falter. And the upper manager is just the puppet master moving the strings. But the middle managers are the ones who are out there when it's snowing out, when we're making decisions on our DPD. Some of the most awful decisions we've made in this city was with that downtown, when we had challenges filling storefronts and we filled it with government and we filled it with social services. So what type of person who owns a business building down there is going to want to rent it to anybody else? Government is a guaranteed paycheck. And that's the problem, is now we filled it with all government agencies, and you can't survive down there. So we got to make decisions, and that came from that was planning, and we got to get better at it. And if we don't, we got to stop complaining about the direction of our downtown, because actually government's the one who set that direction down there.
Yeah.
Eric, I think when it comes to the downtown stores, our business helping people in City Hall, I don't know what you call that department, they should get these downtown stores, we'll say Eric's Shoe Store. Eric's Shoe Store, get them a connection with Amazon so Eric can sell his shoes on Amazon. Because that's where the market's going. I think that we should concentrate on that stuff. What are your thoughts?
I don't disagree with you, John, but there's a fine line between government pushing direction to businesses on that end, where you can push someone to do that. But I agree, if you're a smart business person, why wouldn't you do that on your own and try to make your business sustainable? I think that's where people need to have more, government needs to have more training on some of what people think would be successful.
Well,
and
Eric,
you're in the market, John.
I'll say
You
this,
know it
Eric.
better than anybody. You've survived.
I'll say this to you, okay? Every small business person out there is busy all day long, just like you are. And we have a department for the city, their job is to help these businesses prosper. And I think that they can open a lot of paths for small business to push their product on the internet and then present it to them on the side. Look at, it's just as simple. You do A, B, C, and D, and your product's on the internet. And I'm not saying
I think
do
you're right.
all the work for them.
I
I'm just
think
saying
you're right.
pave the way.
No, I think you're right, and I think that's why that workforce is downtown with the career center and everything, and that is part of the growth of the city, is trying to get them more apt towards it. So if we can do that, then you're not wrong. That's why they're down there, is to try to help businesses prosper in ways that are outside the box thinking, and that's one way of doing it. And they should have those meetings, and I believe they do have meetings, but whether they're to that extent or trying to get homeless off the doorsteps down there so that their entranceways don't smell like urine and stuff, that's a challenge also. So who's going to go down there is the question when all these things are going on. But Amazon, you don't need people down there. You're not wrong.
Yeah, I was just sent John some of Diana DiZoglio's tweets over the past few days, where they're trying to get her to be more specific about the audit, like they're trying to block her in every way possible.
Well, that's government, right? If you got a good idea that they don't like, guess what? They're going to block you. I mean, I've experienced it. Everybody's experienced who's been an elected official. And then you just got to find challenging ways to get around it. And I'm sure she will. She's a very bright person.
Yeah, she's pushing everyone to reach out to the AGO and the Assistant Attorney General and office, and as well as Maureen Haley's office, to continue to push for this, for the transparency. But it seems like there's a lot in government that are trying to block her at the same way.
Well, if they're trying to block her, there's something in it for them, right?
Right.
I mean, it makes no sense. Why would you can come audit my finances? I have no problem with it on my account. I mean, why would you have a problem with it unless you're hiding something?
I got a question here for Eric. From the audience, Eric, why do we name buildings, bridges, et cetera, after politicians?
No, and that's another good point. I mean, at some point, you could probably make money off of naming buildings too. But,
Right.
but I would say that George Bossy was far from a politician.
Right.
You know, he was basically anti-politician if you really look at the history of George Bossy. So I do agree with that point. You should be naming them after. If you can make money off of naming, I think that's even better. And as long as the person meets the standards of what you're looking for.
Right, and the Janice 80 Day School, that, she was not a politician, was she?
I don't believe so.
Janice 80, yeah. I would like to look into the history of that too and how that was
I believe that
decided.
was Dunkin' Donuts. I believe 80 owned Dunkin' Donuts, right?
Yep, I believe so, yep, and she was a paraprofessional or a teacher?
A very, very skilled person, very nice person.
Yes,
Yeah, but no, I just wanted to
have to go.
call in and I'm not suggesting that George Bossy over Sapasaris or anybody. I'm just saying that, both were phenomenal and there's probably many others who have helped along the way that helped people in our city who've done. But George Bossy stands out because of the length of time. When you look at that 60 years, it's amazing. It's like Dave McLaughlin out at Greater Lowell. He was at Greater Lowell before the building was built, and he's still here today. So it's just an amazing gift that he's given so many kids.
Yeah, no, thank you for enlightening us and giving us more information on him. I'm happy you called because I didn't do as good of a job as you did in explaining him. But, yeah, and getting to know what the position, like how buildings are named and so forth, because being semi-new still to this whole field, it's interesting to know like how it can happen.
And I think that, the school committee is always going to be challenged, and I think they do an excellent job. I think no matter what the decision they make is going to be a challenge. Like when we talked about the homeless camping, the beginning of it was about around schools and trying to protect school kids from PTSD and stuff like that. And people can be upset at me all they want, but at the end of the day, we're looking at the future that's walking to these schools. And if you live within a mile of it, you have to walk to those schools, and you shouldn't have to. No kid should have to walk through that.
Yeah, I was debating on what you were saying with a friend of mine from Lowell, and because last week the school committee meeting, the city council meeting obviously got quite heated, and having a child that attends Lowell Public Schools and has been, seeing what he has seen and what other kids have seen, I just think, like you had a very solid point that nobody should be exposed to seeing those things. And my friend was like, but we all know what it's like to be from Lowell. We just avoid those areas. And I'm like, but what if you can't avoid those areas? And you go to school there. Well, parents should just know better. Parents in Lowell should just know better where to send their kids.
But the sad part is?
Yeah.
You know what the sad part really is about it? You got UMass Lowell professors up there herding in their students that they rounded up to get down there, right? The first place to kick out the kids from the homeless from around the area was UMass Lowell. The first place to kick out the methadone clinic in the area was UMass Lowell. And then you get the audacity to stand up and tell us how bad we are because we're trying to protect K through 8. Well, your kids are adults, I hate to tell you. They're 18 and over, and if they can't take it, then why should a K through 8 kid take it? If you're worried about your market, what about ours? What about the parents who have means and they leave the area? And talk about separation of wealth. They'll leave to go to a private school just to keep their kids out of it, okay? Like the lady was saying to you, oh yeah, have your kids go around it. The best way to have my kid go around it? Go to a different school. Right. And that separates wealth from non-wealthy people or people who have means versus none. So how do you change that? And everybody in the world wants that changed until it's time to change it. So now we're trying to change it and say, wait a minute, we're going to protect everybody, even those who don't have wealth, to say, look, we're going to make these schools better so people with wealth will come back. And so educators stay in those positions. I'm sure you've heard the stories about going to schools and stuff like that, Lowell High, when people are, sleeping on sidewalks, shooting up and doing that stuff. So, I'm not in fear of anybody's votes or anything like that. I don't do things for future votes. I'm just hoping to make a difference for the kids for the fuure, that's all.
Eric, I got two comments before you skedaddle on us. And
I gotta get going, but thank you. It was nice talking to you.
hey, bye, Eileen. Thank you.
Bye.
See you Friday. So we got question came before Bossy's name was brought up. Politicians at the bottom of Bossy's resume. Don't know what that means. And it says, imagine how empty downtown would be if it wasn't filled with social services. And but Eric's point is someday those social services are going to move, like the registry of motor vehicles. They're going to say, you know what? We got a better deal elsewhere, and they'll move.
Not only the registry, John, think about it. Middlesex Sheriff's Department left too and had to be told, asked to come back. Don't forget them. On Summer Street, they ran right away, and then, now they made this miraculous decision to come back.
Well, the gobbledygook.
You know why.
The gobbledygook explanation for the registry moving and the Middlesex Sheriff, to my ear, was a bunch of gobbledygook. But
Of course.
employees of both told me it was the homeless harassing their colleagues and their customers as they approached their facility. That's why they left.
And John, you're not wrong. And we're not going to change anything until we're honest with each other, and people are not honest. And that's the problem. But I will let you guys go. I just figured I'd call in and just explain the position of thought. That's all.
Eric, while I got you here, you should consider having a party. There's a movement afoot to find somebody to run against you next fall, and I think you should have a party so 1,000 people can show up and they'll go like, I ain't wasting my summer chasing that guy.
I hope that they do put people up, because I think challenges bring out the better in all of us. So I'm okay with whoever comes to fruition, but it is what it is. I get paid a lot of money to do this, John, and I'm extremely happy doing it at the zero amount.
You're the best. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, there we go. Eileen had to go off to work, so I wanted to ask her about wiping out the Department of Education.
Mike's still here. Patiently.
Yeah. So, Mike, what do you think about this idea of wiping out the Department of Education?
I think that we should not need a Department of Education. I think that each state already sets up a lot of their own requirements for what they consider for education of students in their state. I just think it's a big bureaucracy that has been politically kidnapped by the National Teachers Association, and I believe that it needs to be disbanded. Use the money, give it to the states to use what they find is appropriate for educating their students in their state. Take away all that bureaucracy that's tying up a bunch of money that could help the states out. I think each state should just decide on what they should do for education. It's not part of the Constitution for a Department of Education. I just think it's a big bureaucracy that we don't need.
Well, it is a big bureaucracy, $90 billion in the fiscal 2024 budget, and they're looking for a 13% increase. That's a lot of money. That's another $10 billion.
Yeah, no, so you're talking $100 billion then for the new budget.
Yeah.
That's $2 billion that could go to each state. What could they do with $2 billion? We're discussing earlier about special education needs for people. Look at all the states now with illegal immigration that they've got to provide people to be translating because the kids that are coming in, their only language is not English. So there's a lot of things you could do to make things better. And I think the states have a better idea of what they need to do to educate their students than the federal government does.
Hey,
And I know the argument against that is, well, some states, they don't educate as well. Well, that's on them. They don't educate as well, then people won't move there, and the states will have to change their education requirements to get people who want to live there.
comment from the audience. It's snowing outside. I can't see it, but I believe them because it looks like the white roofs of these cars right here are collecting snow, so.
And we're getting little dots on the camera.
Yeah, but that's
So
not.
that's some sort of precipitation.
Yeah, but the white on the roof of the cars is my telling that it
Yeah.
is snowing out there. Thank you for your comments.
So, but along with the money that you get from the federal government, you get direction. And do we need the federal government telling us how to do business?
Cliff, if I'm writing you a check,
Yeah?
I have a right to tell you this is what I'm paying for.
Yeah?
I have no problem with the government telling me. And it's up to you to be able to communicate with Lori Trahan and say, we don't like this. Take the money, and we're not going to do that. We'll have to send it back, and have her tell you, send it back. She won't. We don't use our politicians properly. Thoughts?
Well, is Lori Trahan going to listen to you?
Well,
listen to me?
if I'm the mayor or the shitty manager, and I write you a letter, and you don't respond, well, I wrote to a congresswoman, she never wrote me back. And she doesn't like bad media. Not picking on Lori, but I mean, same thing with Elizabeth Warren or Ed Markey. Write them a letter. I wrote Ed, waiting to hear back from him. Give me some direction. But I think with this business of these migrants, people who jump the border, coming to the sanctuary state of Massachusetts, if I were President Trump, I'd just, no money, no federal money to Massachusetts. That's it. No federal money to Massachusetts. Oh, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I'm the president. No federal, close the airport.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure you
Close the airport.
can as president.
Close the airport.
Oh, wait a minute now, Cliff. I agree with John on that, because think about Ronald Reagan. Back then, he wanted to get the drinking age in each state changed to 21. You know what he did? He stopped all the federal highway funding to any state that didn't raise the age to 21. So this is not unprecedented. It's been done by a president before. And that's how he got a lot of these states to change their drinking age to 21, because he cut off their federal funding.
True.
So it can do stuff.
Close the airport. Close Logan Airport, because you're going to take away all your federal personnel. Close the airport. That'll stop her right in her tracks.
But on the other hand, Congress passed a rule back when Dick Nixon was president, because he was...
Did he go by Dick?
What? Did what?
Did he go by Dick? You called him Dick Nixon. Did he go by Dick? I mean, Dick Howe's Dick Howe.
Yeah,
Did President Nixon go by Dick?
sure, Tricky Dick.
No, that was his nickname.
Yeah, but that wasn't what he went by. That's what somebody nicknamed him to do that. They always talked to President Nixon or Richard Nixon. They never went by the shortened name. So.
I'll have to ask
But I
Google.
mean-
Ask Google.
But this is what John is saying. This has been done by a president before. That's one of the biggest examples is Reagan. He cut off federal highway funding to all the states that refused to change their drinking age to 21. He didn't hesitate to do it.
Say you didn't have to do it.
He just said if you don't raise the drinking age to 21, then you don't get any highway funding. So that's your choice. You can leave it at 18, but you get no more highway funding. So Trump could do the same thing. He could say, you know what, I want this done. Oh, you don't want to do it? We're not going to give you any federal funding for that item. So.
Well, they did the same thing to drive the speed limit down to 55.
That's correct. Yep. So the federal government, they can do things to affect the states. But I just don't think there should be a Department of Education. That was something that Jimmy Carter did. And, I think that was a huge mistake for the Department of Education. Because all it's done is become a bloated bureaucracy.